One of the biggest mysteries right now is what is going on with the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals having one of their best seasons in 2021, ending the season off with 11 wins, and of course we all know how the season ended with an absolute terrible showing in the wild card. But a lot of fans had a lot of promise for the Arizona Cardinals coming into 2022. Now we're seeing a dumpster fire of a season. It has a lot of fans asking the question, is it Kyler, is it Cliff, or is it Keim? Alright everybody, welcome back. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, what I want to specifically talk about is what is wrong with the 2022 Arizona Cardinals. Now, before we get started, I want to take it back just a little bit to kind of paint the picture pertaining to how we got here, right? So in 2018, the Arizona Cardinals ended up drafting their franchise quarterback in Josh Rosen. Obviously, we all knew that that didn't work out for the Arizona Cardinals. So in 2019, we ended up moving off of him and did something that we've never heard of, any NFL team do, right? We ended up drafting back-to-back quarterbacks and drafting Kyler Murray. Now, when Kyler Murray ended up coming to us, we got a player that has basically won every time he got the ball in his hand, right? Whether you talk about in the collegiate level or in the high school level, this man was an absolute bona fide athlete that can do it all, right? Run the ball as well as throw the ball very accurately. Now, the Arizona Cardinals have made the appropriate steps to kind of get better and better, right? We started off with the 5.5 win season, and then an 8 win season, and then an 11 win season, and then this year. So a lot of the Arizona Cardinal fans right now are wondering what happened, right? What happened to the progression that we've been seeing time in and time again, and why are we here? Now, I think it's very notable to note that the Arizona Cardinals have done absolutely nothing this last offseason. Now, I know there's a lot of Cardinal fans out there that are saying, that's probably one of the main reasons, right? Because Steve Keim didn't put us in a position to succeed. Now, I think this blame kind of goes around with everybody, right? Kyler Murray has absolutely regressed, and I think a lot of fans have kind of not believed in the hype of Cliff Kingsbury, maybe even after year 3 or year 2. But I think it's really hard to point the finger at one specific thing, right? Keim, Kyler, or Cliff Kingsbury. And I think that's one of the biggest mysteries from this Arizona Cardinal team, because I do believe all of them do share some blame going along into this 2022 season. Right now, let's dive right into Steve Keim here, our general manager, that I believe this is going to be his 10th year as a general manager. Now, if you guys didn't know this, in his tenure of being a GM of the Arizona Cardinals, he has only won one playoff game in his tenure of being a GM. That's right, I said it, one playoff game. Now, why he has had this, job for as long as he did, we do truly believe because he is buddy-buddy with the owner, Michael Bidwell. I think that's definitely something to be said in terms of why he's had this job for very long. Now, if we take a look at his draft history, it definitely doesn't look very well for Steve Keim to have this job as long as he has had. Now, I know he's had his mistakes, before, but obviously, one of the biggest mistakes that he's made is something that a lot of people like talking about, right? Is the DUI. Now, one thing that I know a lot of people don't like saying is that, oh my God, we want to use this as an excuse. But I think that the Arizona Cardinals and the Arizona Cardinal fan base is using that because we don't treat everybody exactly the same. Where the GM pretty much just kind of got away with it with a slap in the wrist, we had players like Michael Floyd that ended up getting cut on the spot when he did have the same issue. Now, going back into the draft history of Steve Keim, as of right now, within the last 10 picks, the Arizona Cardinals right now have 4 out of the 10 first-round picks that are currently playing in the Arizona Cardinals. Now, 2 of those players are going to be Zaven Collins as well as Isaiah Simmons, which was their first-rounders, and the year before that was going to be obviously Kyler Murray. Anything before Kyler Murray, the only player that is a first-rounder that is still with the Arizona Cardinals is DJ Humphries, that was drafted in 2015. Everybody else is either with a different team and has succeeded with that team, or has not been in the NFL after they've been drafted. Now, going back into this offseason, coming into the 2022 season, Steve Keim didn't do anything for the defense at all. It almost kind of felt like they were trying to do a run it back situation, but we definitely lost some key pieces, right? Now, we know Chandler Jones isn't having the best season of his life in the Raiders, but I do believe his presence and what he brings to the defense pertaining to how defensive coordinators like to, protect their offensive line against him really dramatically changed when we didn't make any drastic moves in the cornerback role, the edge position, or even in the offensive tackle role. It's no big mystery that the Arizona Cardinals have had many, many injuries in this season, right? I think we've had multiple different starting lineups in the offensive line, which is really hard for the offensive line to really kind of start gelling with each other. But I'm not one to use very much excuses. Steve Keim knew that this was definitely something that was very important to the Arizona Cardinal fans to really build a championship roster team, because this was the year that the Arizona Cardinals needed to go for the Super Bowl run. Yes, Kyler Murray did end up getting paid this last offseason, but so did Cliff Kingsbury, as well as Steve Keim, and Kyler Murray as well. Now, I think one thing that a lot of people like focusing on very much is the play of Kyler Murray, right? Absolutely regressed. His long ball doesn't look exactly the same as well, right? Now we have this big narrative on Kyler Murray that he's uncoachable, and we have this big national media chains basically giving up scenarios on different ways that the Arizona Cardinals could unload a Kyler Murray. Obviously, that doesn't help, but I do think that the beginning of the season, starting off with the homework clause, is definitely something that's going to put a strain on a season. I'm not trying to give any excuses to Kyler Murray, but if you really ask yourself, do you really feel like this organization has your back? Now let's talk about, Cliff Kingsbury here a little bit. Cliff Kingsbury has not really done anything to keep his job or even get the job of the Arizona Cardinal role. Now, I think one of the big reasons in terms of why we ended up getting Cliff Kingsbury was we were trying to become the next coach that has the young offensive guru, right? And that's what we were sold as Arizona Cardinal fans, bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. And, in the first 3 years, it seemed like it was working, right? We were making the right steps to become a team to hopefully have some consistency. Kind of felt like a rug was pulled off from under a lot of the Arizona Cardinal fans, and we are here at this very moment. Now, like I mentioned a little earlier, I truly don't believe that Cliff Kingsbury deserved this job with getting hired, but obviously a lot of Arizona Cardinal fans were excited because we possibly got another Sean McVay. But if you take a look at his college, stats and what he's accomplished very much, even in college, he wasn't a winning coach at all. Now, I know a lot of ammunition that has been used against Cliff Kingsbury is that he crashes and burns towards the end part of the season, happened in the collegiate level as well as the NFL level. So a lot of fans are pretty much upset of that, as well as basically he seems like he got found out already, right? We're looking at an offense that definitely should work, but we're looking at a quarterback right now that has regressed. Maybe has he regressed because that homework clause, or maybe he just regressed because it's year 4 and he got paid. We don't really truly know exactly what happened here, right? One of the biggest mysteries going into this 2022 season is what happened to the Arizona Cardinals. So I do believe that everybody does, share a blame into this, coming into this season here, right? Cliff, Keim, as well as Kyler Murray as well. Now, when you really take a look at it, how is the Arizona Cardinals going to move forward with this regime? Because like I mentioned a little earlier, Cliff got paid, Keim got paid, and Kyler got paid as well. Now, you can't replace a franchise quarterback as easy as you can replace a head coach and a GM, at least in my mind. Now, here's the way that I would love the Arizona Cardinals to kind of move forward. I would love the Arizona Cardinals to keep Kyler Murray and allow him to groom under another head coach. Maybe a Sean Payton, maybe somebody else that has had experience in the NFL. Because one of the biggest knocks going back into Cliff Kingsbury is that it's just way too big for him. He might be the best of guys, but when it comes down to the head coaching position, there's too much going on. And if he needs to kind of accommodate to Kyler Murray as well, I don't think he has it in him to ask for help, because everybody's been asking for an offensive coordinator. Cliff Kingsbury did come out and say that he's going to retire if he does get an offensive coordinator or if play calls get taken away from him. So the Arizona Cardinal organization is basically strapped as well from that whole situation. Going back into Kyler Murray, I do truly believe that we do need a new leadership. We need a new voice in here, right? Because Steve Keim has also been one of those guys that has been accused of just having bad culture, right? Now, he preached that there was good culture within this Cardinal organization. I've been a fan of this, organization for 10 plus years, and this is far from having good culture, right? And I mean a winning culture more than anything. Steve Keim would kind of, talk to his face turns blue and lie to you and say we have good culture, but I truly don't believe we do. We had players that have been very disgruntled coming out of this organization, right? If you talk about Patrick Peterson, if you talk about, David Johnson, as well as Tyrann Mathieu, and some might even believe that, BA, which was the head coach that we had before Steve Wilks, was, kind of forced to retire because they wanted to kind of go a different route. Now, if you don't believe that, that's completely up to you, but I do believe that, within this organization, it's Steve Keim's way or the highway, but I think he needs to truly look himself in the mirror, and I don't think he knows exactly what he's doing. His draft picks haven't really worked out. Free agents haven't really 100% worked out for the Arizona Cardinals. The one thing that Steve Keim does very well at is that basically he likes to make real big splash trades, and that does work out for Steve Keim, but you can't build a consistent team for the future with just making big trades. A lot of those trades coming in from players that don't want to move in with those organizations because they want to get paid. The Arizona Cardinals comes in here, and that's where all the money allocates to. And if we can't draft, then that basically, doesn't give us any ability to keep signing players because we're making these big trades for these big star players, but it's not going to work because our offensive line is not good, right? Our defense is underpaid on the defensive side of the ball, so we don't really have the star makers. Yes, we have young players that are looking better and better each year, but we need to get absolute dogs, and we need to get people that are hungry, right? Young players out of the draft. You can't build from free agency. You need to build from the draft. That's something that Steve Keim absolutely lacks, his ability to draft. So as you already know, I truly do think the blame goes absolutely all around, and this even goes up to Michael Bidwell because nobody agreed with the extensions of Keim as well as Cliff Kingsbury other than Michael Bidwell. Now, as of right now, Kyler Murray is under contract as well. I do believe we truly need to ride with Kyler Murray at least with one more year, get him a capable coach, another leader, another person with a different voice to try to right this ship out. Now, I truly don't believe that Cliff Kingsbury will get fired anytime within this season, and most likely will happen on Black Monday if Michael Bidwell does choose to take that route. I do believe we need a new leadership. I do believe we need a new GM that's basically making this team the way that they envision it. Because as of right now, within 10 years, having one playoff win under the GM of Steve Keim, it just ain't going to cut it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for tuning in. What do you think is wrong with the Arizona Cardinals? Put everything in the comments below. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day and go Cards.